Generally speaking, we can try landing on her wings, or touch them at least. Maybe we shouldn't.
Hi all, my name is Vladimir Vasilyev, and I'm happy to see you on my channel again. As you know, we often talk about general aviation planes, but then a thought popped up, whether we should delve into some large planes also. And where do we begin speaking of large planes? How about the largest plane on Earth? We are currently inside the AN-225, the biggest plane there is, and let's stop for a second. This here is exactly the distance that the Wright brothers flew back in 1903. Their first flight was 36 meters long, but interestingly enough, we still have quite a distance to cover.
Antonov, Mriya, Mriya.
We are joined by Dmitry Antonov, the test pilot of AN-225, and it looks like we are surrounded by his name right now, since it's also the plane and the hangar name opposite to us. Must be a sign, right?
It may just so be. Something definitely brought me to this point, although I've tried many other things and still ended up in aviation. Since AN-225 is the largest aircraft in the world, it is often considered that if you fly this plane, you basically reach the top of the aviation ladder. But for me, it's just a normal job. Nothing extraordinary, to be honest with you.
Of course. There's nothing special about flying Mriya.
Mriya was originally created for the space program and carried Buran for a while. There were plans to build a second one, but production stopped together with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And I think it would be immensely hard to finish the second plane. That was intended to be built after Mriya. This guy's career, on the other hand, finished in 1995. And it's solely thanks to the constructors team that this plane hasn't become a museum exhibit and still has the capacity to bring joy to us by making occasional flights, moving cargo across the globe. More so, I am proud that this is a Ukrainian plane now, since it was refurbished here back in 2001. It carries a Ukrainian name, which translates to the dream, again adding greatly to the Ukrainian analogy. Well, you have to be gentle with her, and every time we come to any of our planes, we always stroke them a bit prior to the flight. Even when the stairs are up, all crew members come here and say hi to her, and she always responds with aching respect. She is 6.4 meters wide,
4.4 meters in height.
This here is an entrance to the unpressurized bay, which cannot be loaded with cargo. Plus, it's all solid, so you can't load cargo through here. Also, this is where the ladder to the technical crew quarters is. It's where they live.
So, its dry weight is 250 tons.
280. Actually, last time we checked, it was 293 tons, together with additional equipment, mind you. Although as standard, you would weigh it without equipment. That includes spare wheels, chains, beam cranes, reaching roughly 280-something tons. Yep, it's somewhere across those lines.
This just says a lot about how thought out and rigid its structure is, because 280 tons isn't that much when you take into account the size of her. 280 tons is equal to 10 railway cars, and this plane can lift all of that up in the air, being at the same time greatly more advanced than your basic railway cars. The difference between the two is uncomparable, really.
We recently transported some medical equipment. It was all packed up in boxes, and it was quite mind-blowing to see that the cargo, which we had neatly packed up inside, was delivered by over 12 trucks. It never ceases to amaze, to be honest with you, just how much stuff can fit in this plane. And it boggles even our minds, although we see this stuff daily. I have many pictures of instances where we packed it to the brink, taking up all the available space, which roughly equates to 40,600 cubic feet of volume. Although, since we have to leave some space for easy access, we definitely reach 34,700 cubic feet at times.
Can we go up to the crew quarters?
Sure.
You said it's where technical crews rest, right? A rest cabin with seats and stuff, I take it.
We have your standard safety equipment here. Ramps to slide out of the plane, rafts. Rafts are amazing, by the way. Each can carry 46 people, whilst max capacity is 69. And we have 4 of these in total. You can gather quite a crowd in them. Next comes the aviation fridge and stove. Some old kettles. This is where the crew sits during takeoff and landing. And up there in front, we have 12 beds.
We are now in one of the bedrooms, and there's more than one on Mriya. This one fits 9 people. Next one fits 3. And the one after is a seating area for 15 people or so. Oh, and there's one more bedroom for flight crew. The only thing missing is a balcony, I guess, so you could come out for a smoke. The whole quarter is pressurized, of course. Do you open this door to let air in?
Nope, never. We usually run an auxiliary system for it, and sometimes turn the ground aircon on, which is generally more than enough and helps quite a lot, especially during our last trip to China, and it was super hot there. These bars here are part of the cargo equipment, which we added over time, and we use them for heavyweight cargo, when it has to be raised to stick rollers under it. I guess you can imagine the size of loads we transport. It's something that we added along the time of operation, and actually all this other stuff that you see on both sides of the plane have also been added in the 90s, after we began using the aircraft for cargo purposes. We basically have all the required tools to load any type of cargo, be it nets, chains, halyards, and the rest of it. We really have it all now.
How often do you get punctures?
It never happens, really. On very rare occasions, we have brake issues, but that's about it. They overheat, and when wheel temperature goes over 220 degrees, thermo insets melt, which causes the wheel to deflate. Punctures are a very rare occasion.
Are they tubeless?
That's right.
Each gear leg has its own hydraulic unit, responsible for retraction of gears and tire inflation, if the need arises. Plus, the rear gears can rotate for increased maneuverability, turning in opposite direction to the front gear.
All 4 rear legs rotate. It aids 180-degree turns and general agility, although we lock them when the plane gets towed back. So you try to make a turn and nothing happens. The yoke is at its maximum, your front gear is at 60 degrees, and she is still going straight. So you add thrust and engage the brakes on one side, and only then it slowly starts making the turn. Oh, and same goes for leveling it back. This is why taxi is usually extremely slow, and all pilots know about it. I mean, by comparison even. AN-225 feels like a go-kart. As for Mriya, on the other hand, you practically need to stop before making a 90-degree turn.
There are 2 crane beams in total. Each hook can lift 5 tons of weight, meaning that this installation can lift roughly 20 feet of cargo in total, moving it inside the plane and placing wherever it should be. I've just been told that the new modification is capable of lifting 30 tons, and these cranes are a must because all cargo gets loaded from the front, then moved deep inside the cargo bay. This plane is humongous, just like everything else here. Look at the wiring harnesses, for example. Everything is massive. Those huge tires also. They are super massive. Frankly speaking, it's people like these guys, people who had the nerve to build such a machine. It's what keeps our world moving. Just think about how ruthless and bold one must be to take a piece of paper, draw out a blueprint, and then build such an aircraft. Off we go to the cockpit.
This here is where two engineers sit: Chief Flight Engineer and Avionics Engineer. CFE is responsible for engines, fuel system, and hydraulics, while Second Engineer takes care of electrics. Both can control the aircon system though. Oh, and since I mentioned hydraulics, I was once asked what is the worst thing to break in flight. Is it when you run out of fuel? I said no. Or maybe when all engines die? Again, I said no. It's when hydraulics fail. This is just the worst. You can still land a plane without engines or fuel, but failed hydraulics just put a stop to it all. Reason being, well, it's because we don't have manual controls, like you would have on everything starting from Beechcrafts. AN-26, AN-12 that can also be run manually.
AN-22 too, I think.
Yes, it does have such an option, but it's not an easy job without boosters. Still possible though, unlike with this aircraft.
Is turbulence a thing with it?
Oh, definitely. It's quite a scary thing too. At best not to look out the window when that happens, because wingtips have an amplitude of 3 to 5 meters.
You mean that tip, right?
Makes you wonder how on earth does it cope with it all.
Here is the HSI.
Yes, its predecessor to be precise. We have added a modern sat-nav though, ground collision warning system and traffic collision avoidance system. As for the rest, it was all made and designed back in the late 70s, early 80s. Nevertheless, it still works and allows you to fly safely.
Quite a lot of space here.
Of course, you can easily get out from the seat, do some exercises, or walk around the cabin.
What's the autopilot like?
It is working great, easy controllable, and connects to Navi.
Does it do auto approach?
It does, but naturally only into the decision altitude of 200 feet. It's the rules, basically.
And then you switch it off.
Yes, the last bit is done manually.
Is one hand enough to control all 6 engines?
There is a linkage here that basically clips them together like so. One hand would have not been enough, and we use it during both takeoff and landing. Opposingly, we unlink them in flight, controlling each engine separately.
Is it because you want to even out the parameters?
Mainly the fans. Shortly after touchdown, first officer calls out 0 reverse. We then set out the interceptors with this lever and monitor the status on the screens. So after the command, we move the thrust aft with this movement. It should be confirmed on screen. Then stick out the reverse lever and engage it like so. We then monitor all of that on our gauges. First engineer confirms that the thrust is up, and once we reach 80 miles per hour, reverse must be brought down to 0, as otherwise there is a risk of engine surge. Hence, we try not to go over it and bring the lever back to 0.
How big is the delay for the engines to spool up?
First of all, we never practice such things, although on some occasions we do test the throttle response. Usually we are pretty slow with thrust increase, and it is only after the engine change that we test full thrust whilst on the ground, given that the engines are warmed up and all. All in all, it takes around 3 seconds from 70% thrust, and 10 to 12 seconds for the parameters to settle. Then the flight engineer confirms that parameters are within norms, and we thrust the engines down.
Just as a fun fact, how does an empty plane accelerate?
Like a jet fighter. Vertical speed is around 4,000 feet per minute, and that's with 40 tons of fuel on board, which is a typical amount during the test flights that we do. And the responsiveness is ridiculous. It's simply mega.
Visibility isn't great.
Well, yes, it's not an Airbus where your windshield goes all the way to your knees.
It's still all right, though. Do you lower the blinders in flight?
We are not allowed since they obstruct the view, but we do lower them whilst on the ground. Although their main purpose is to train the pilots to land the aircraft at minimum U6 avionics. You basically keep them lowered until the decision altitude, or maybe 100 feet above it, and then open them for final approach and actual landing.
But don't you ever find yourself in situations, especially when you fly over the Atlantic, when it gets too hot in the cabin and you start covering up with maps?
We also employ various solutions to this, but you still have to maintain visibility of what's happening outside. Plus, you can use this visor.
Here's another question. What career milestones does one need to cover in order to be permitted to fly Mriya?
So, first of all, the way our company is structured is that you have to cover substantial hours in one of the 7 AN-125 Ruslans that we have. But overall, around 70% of our pilots that fly Ruslans pilot Mriyas too from time to time. That's 70% of pilots out of 140 in total.
So basically, number of accepted pilots isn't small.
That's right. And to be honest, these planes are not much different from one another, especially when you cover the throttle levers. Same goes for when you pilot the two, because they feel quite similar in flight. And you get exactly the same avionics too. It's only when you start looking around and seeing more people that you take notice what plane it is. But as for flight characteristics, the difference isn't huge. Everything changes though when you're on the ground, and this very much concerns Mriya. She is very unique and hard to maneuver, difficult to turn around, and most importantly, it's very hard to navigate her during taxi. Your eyes don't really grasp the size of her, and it gets super difficult to judge the space. When, for example, some obstacle is only 10 or 15 feet from the wingtips, it is practically impossible to figure, and at times we have to go out of the plane and check.
Is there a team that is responsible for it?
First of all, whenever we fly to a new airport, we study it through and through in great detail, and even pick up reference points from Google Maps to figure out where we'll fit during taxi. We even go as far as measure the distance between reference points with a ruler, figuring out whether we'll fit at all, and where should the turning points be.
How different are they in terms of maneuverability?
Ruslan is pretty manageable, but Mriya, well, she is different.
How do you steer the front gear?
It's this handle here, and we have it on both sides. You must first enable it with a switch, and then start steering, bearing in mind that your hydraulics are pressurized. A 60-degree angle takes 2 turns of the handle. Also, as I mentioned earlier, you have to be extremely careful when maneuvering, because she is opposite to being obedient, and that's when you add thrust. Thrust, in turn, adds a new level of difficulty, as you must watch out not to blow anything off behind you. This is why we always pay our utmost attention during taxi, checking and taking into account the surrounding area. We were once called out by Helsinki airport officials, who said that we blew away a Cessna with our Ruslan, but they showed up only 6 months after it happened, and often people just want to make you responsible for something that never took place. And given how big our planes are, we always seem to be an easy target. I guess it's just something that comes with the plane. We also get blamed for blowing lights off. In Kazakhstan, for instance, at Almaty Airport, we were approached by the officials after some Boeing smashed a line of lights on the runway. Not sure how it happened, but the officials came to us. We in turn showed them that it's not our tire marks, and more so, we weren't even at that part of the airport. So they came out saying that they wanted to try and put it on us.
We are now inside the electrics quarter. I wonder what an electric circuit diagram looks like for this. It must be absolutely huge.
It's a bunch of massive, thick books that an engineer surrounds himself with, and then starts looking for something specific.
I fly over your airport quite often, and first and foremost, I would like to say thank you to your air traffic control, because every time you request a flyby, they almost always allow it. So thanks a lot, guys. The best part about it, though, is that you get to see Mriya from above. It's majestic.
Generally speaking, we can try landing on her wings, or touch them at least. Maybe we shouldn't.
Do you enjoy the process? Of course. First, it's the amount of people, the crowd that it gathers. That's always exciting, because they all come to see the plane, and you happen to be inside of it. It's a nice feeling. What is your cruise speed?
It's 500 miles per hour.
True airspeed.
You can go above it towards 530 miles, but that's the limit. So on average, it's 500 miles per hour.
What was your longest flight?
Best to specify it in hours instead of kilometers, and it's up to 16 hours of flight for both Mriya and Ruslan.
That's probably around 2,500 miles, right?
Fuel tanks, for example, can take more fuel than max takeoff weight, which equates to around 370 tons, although 350 tons is the sweet spot.
So if I translate it to gallons, it's roughly 262,000 gallons of fuel.
262,000 gallons.
That's around 6 railway tank cars.
Exactly. And then it flies.
What's the consumption per hour?
As I said, we can fill in 350 tons of fuel and fly for 16 hours, within minus 30 tons that you spend per descent, which brings us with 320. 320 tons divided by 16 hours leaves us with 20 tons per hour. An empty plane consumes 16 tons, and 22 tons when fully loaded. Per hour, that is. One thing we don't really like is that once we line up for takeoff, we have to spend 4 minutes warming up the engines at a thrust level of 0.45 and 0.7 from nominal. Plus, you can't lower the thrust afterwards.
You can only take off, right?
Correct. It's the discomfort that we bring to every airport we visit.
So this is why Mriya always takes an extra 4 minutes before it takes off, and that's on the runway.
Yes, we basically line up for takeoff and then wait for engines to warm up, which creates unwanted delays in congested airports, respectively delaying all other scheduled flights, as your usual takeoff interval per plane is around 1 minute, and that's a maximum. Moreover, due to our wake turbulence, I think it's 3 more minutes that planes have to wait before they can take off following our path.
You practically shut down an airport for 10 minutes.
Oh, due to the type of this aircraft, they must do a runway inspection after we leave, which results in further delays.
What was your heaviest cargo?
It was a combined load back then, and the flight took place on the 9th of September 2001, on that very unfortunate day. It was a record flight that carried 5 tanks, amounting to 254.3 tons of weight.
What happens if you are fully loaded and you lose an engine?
The plane is definitely capable of it. I've heard that some companies don't pay attention to it, but we always make sure that we can keep a minimum ascent gradient of 3% on 5 engines and 3 engines for AN-124. This is enough to maneuver the plane towards descent, be it the departure airport or anything else nearby.
What about 4 engines?
It never happened.
What do you think, though?
It's hard to give you an exact answer.
I guess you've tried returning on 5.
If we divide 600 tons by 6, we are left with 100 tons per engine. So technically, 4 engines should also be enough.
But what do you reckon perception-wise?
We have tried flying on 5 engines, as you noticed, and 2 engines on Ruslan.
Oh, wow. Was it an engine per each side, or?
It was a test flight, and everything went well. We were just checking the engines.
What's the rotating momentum like?
Not really, because you usually land on minimum setup and hence try not to overdo the inputs, which would just create additional problems. You just make sure your inputs are fluid, and that's all. Frankly speaking, its flight control surfaces are so big that even the control's mechanism setup adjusts along with the growth of speed, decreasing movement of these surfaces by 4 times. I often reminisce of a case when we were in Tbilisi. It was an early morning. Our crew consisted of 22 people, and we were packing into a bus that would take us to Mriya. It is often that some locals, the airport employees, would come with us, just to complete all handling procedures and the rest. So we get into the bus. There are quite many people around. Bus takes us to the plane. The doors open. Our technician lowers the ladder, and then one of the locals jumps out of the bus and runs into the plane. We didn't pay much attention to it at the time. He then runs out 3 minutes later and asks where the seats are. I ask him if he's sane, to which he replied that he is meant for depart for Minsk. So we get in touch with the tower, and turns out this plane was sitting next to us, but it was a normal passenger jet, of course. I guess the guy rushed in to snatch the best seat.
What is the shortest runway that you've conquered?
It's definitely this one here. It's 6,000 feet long.
What are the official guidelines, though?
If you land right at the beginning of the strip and push brakes all the way in, the stopping distance is 2,600 feet.
This is a mind-blowing aircraft. It's mind-blowing to see it in real life, and I absolutely recommend you guys to come and see this plane wherever it flies next. Some things are like pyramids. We all saw them in pictures, but you really have to experience the sight to fully grasp the majesty of it.
Oh, and if you ever see one, it will be this specific one, since they only made one.
Well, guys, today is quite a memorable day. And although we can't fly it today for obvious reasons, at least we can admire it.
Indeed. I really hope you guys will have a chance to see this plane with your own eyes. And do come to the skies.
Come to the skies, guys. Fly the beautiful planes we all have access to. And although Mriya is unreachable to all of us, we can at least fly over it and admire its sheer size and beauty. Even when it's parked next to massive Ruslans. I am Vladimir Vasilev. I'm Dmitry Antonov. Goodbye, and we'll see you soon. Can we film something small next time? Like a Ruslan, for example?
Sure, let's film that tiny thing next.